Currently 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm on my way to go and check out a bike that I found on the marketplace. It's a Yamaha XJ650. It doesn't have a key. It's a 2-hour return trip for me. I just hope the motor isn't seized. After having a bit of a chinwag with the owner about this bike, I noticed that there was a layer of oil over the entire thing. I don't know if he was trying to make it look shiny or trying to disguise the fact that it's got surface rust all over it. And he also said he had a couple of motorcycle tanks that might be of interest to me. Well, I think he has a few more than a couple. But the most important thing to me right now is to make sure that this motor is not seized, because if it is, it just puts a whole heap more work to a build like this, which will certainly help you negotiate a lower price if it is. Took one of the side covers off, and as you'll see, it spins perfectly free. Unfortunately, I put my damn knee in the way, but you can see it's still spinning. So I handed the man some of the foldable goods, and we were on our way. But little did we know what we're in for at this point. I really didn't need another project right now, but for that price, I really just couldn't let it go. And they're really fun to try and get started after however long it's been since they were last fired up. And it's a fun process to watch too, to see if you can do it. This is my friend Willis. He has already built one of these into a cafe racer, so he knows the bike pretty well, and wait till you see what we found. First up, we did find a home that the critters had made for themselves inside the airbox. We didn't actually see them, but we certainly found their toilet. I'm pretty sure it was a combination between ants, mice, rats, and cockroaches. One of the major concerns I had with this bike was there something wrong with it? It had no key, it didn't have any fuses, whether the guy was trying to make it really difficult for us to try and wind the thing over, or at least start it and then see if there's something rattling or some engine noise, or whether he's legitimately just had the bike, lost the key, the fuses were out of it because someone had smashed them, or who knows, but I can guarantee you we'll get to the bottom of it. I put all the fuses in, and there's one that someone's done a bit of a jimmy rig on.
Yeah, it's just the headlights, so we won't even worry about that. Yeah.
So hard to read. So we gave the bike a power source. I borrowed a key off my Yamaha Virago, which is of the same year model, and believe it or not, actually worked. And I went ahead and removed the brakes because they're completely seized, and I thought I might be able to free them up enough just in case we do get this bike started. But they were so badly corroded, I couldn't even dismantle them properly without destroying them. So I threw them in the ultrasonic cleaner, and hopefully it can do some of the hard work. Just as a side note, look at the size of the headlights on these things. I got quite large hands, and this thing is massive. So Willis took charge of the Japanese spaghetti diagnostics, aka wiring, and managed to get some power in the bike, which was awesome. In order to get any motor started, you need 4 elements. You need air, fuel, compression, and spark. Without one of those things, the motor will not run. But we want to check for compression as well as spark first, and we're going to have to rip off these carburetors at some point anyway, so we may as well do it now. And also removing the airbox, because we're not going to be using it and it's just going to get in our way. After removing one of the starter motor bolts and finding this, I'm a little bit concerned as to what the engine oil is going to be like. Hopefully there's no water in it. It's like oily mud. Is the only way I can explain it. Okay, starter motor's out. No way. Surely there's a... After struggling like a couple of monkeys trying to get into a coconut, there is absolutely no way that this airbox was going to come out in one piece. So, it came out in 2. In order to keep the airbox in one piece, you would have to remove the frame from the motor, but we were going to delete it anyway, so it didn't really matter to us. Old Step Brothers, the most quoted movie ever. Look how much room there is for activities now. After dumping the oil, you can see that it's well overdue for a change, but the 2 things I'm really happy about is there's no metal filings in there and there's no water. So the starter motor was making some funny noises. We weren't sure if it was a broken shaft or stripped gears or possibly even the motor running backwards off a totally different bike. And so what we did, we got another starter motor off the same model and put it on the bike. Oh yeah, that's a good sign. And that is a good sound, which means whoever's replaced this starter motor has obviously bought one that looks the same, but it's off a totally different model because it's running the opposite way. So the next crucial thing that we needed was spark, and we weren't getting any. But why? Was it the spark plugs? Was it the leads? Was it the coils? Was it the stator? The ignition module? So while Willis was on the adventure of problem solving, I thought I'd pull apart the carburetors and give them a good clean, and then I found this. One of the threads that holds in one of the jets is completely stripped, so that's going to be fun. And as you'd expect, it's pretty gummed up with old fuel, so I'll pull it all apart, put it in the ultrasonic cleaner, and get to this a bit later on. So the following day, Willis turns up with a bunch of goodies from his bike that he actually didn't use. So this is going to be awesome. And in that bundle of goodies was his old carburetor that he rebuilt a few years ago. It's just been sitting in his workshop. So that means if we can get spark and compression, we might be able to get this thing started. So 1 out of 4 cylinders is good. 2 out of 4 cylinders is good. 3 out of 4 cylinders is good. And 4 out of 4 cylinders. So we have compression. We tested the coils and replaced them just in case that was the spark issue, but it wasn't. We also checked the stator and that seems to be functioning perfectly fine. So maybe it was leads, maybe it was spark plugs, so we bought some new spark plugs. And then after Willis found one of the connectors wasn't making a good contact, he chopped it off and this happened. We finally have spark and that's all it was, just a bad connector. So we gave it some fuel.
Ready? Yeah.
There is just something so satisfying about getting a bike started and hearing it run for the first time with no idea of how long it was last kicked over. But now it's time to strip everything off the bike that we know we won't be using and get started into the build. But I do have one question for you. I'm looking forward to doing a ton of fabrication on this bike, but I want to know, what do you want to see me turn this into? A cafe racer, a scrambler, or a street tracker? Leave a comment below and let me know, and let's see who wins this one. And if you've enjoyed this video, go and check out one of these two on the screen right now. I'll be chopping the subframe completely off and building a whole new one, bringing it up a little bit higher, doing a tank swap, also a front end swap, and possibly even a new exhaust system from scratch.